If you are sleeping on solo leveling, boy are you missing out, because this man just soloed such a cool, well animated, big ass snake boss with his bare hands. And I mean, I've seen some badass raw things in anime, but this one's definitely the rawest in recent memory, because when you have a character who you know is gonna be an absolute beast, the show's called Solo Leveling, and already by episode 4, he's probably at like level 18, give or take. And this show did such a good job at showing how broken he already is, and this isn't even close to where he's going to end up. We probably haven't even reached a percentage of the insanity that he's going to do, because this boss that you couldn't cut, its scales were so strong. He rips that boy apart and strangles that thing with his bare hands, and that's all well and good. But then when you go to the surface and see a group, an army, struggling to defeat this golem that he looks at and says, this is weaker than the boss that I just fought, threw a broken sword, broke through its defenses, something a whole army couldn't do. Yeah, this man's built different. Full live reaction to today's wonderful solo leveling episode over on my Patreon. If you like to see my full length of thoughts, they're over there if you're interested. Wow, like I expected something good this episode, but I actually didn't expect them to finish the boss fight, let alone show a second boss fight all in the same episode. Something that's been rather odd to me is the criticisms towards cliffhangers when it comes to solo leveling, because every anime that's ongoing, especially anything with like a story or a lot of action, has cliffhangers. Like, you're not going to see every single thing in an episode because there's multiple episodes you're going to be watching. So cliffhangers are not only used to keep you interested, but most importantly, they can't fit everything in a 20-minute package, right? But I've seen a lot of people act like it's insufferable, and I'm like, this feels pretty normal cliffhanger-wise for me. But either way, I thought they would just do what they normally would do. You know, we'd see all the wolf and everything that we fight, that we end up doing, and then we'd start the boss fight, and it would probably cut away from a big moment. Instead, we get all the little miniature action, we get the full boss fight, and then they put the cherry on top and show just that golem, which literally, there was like 8 characters there, give or take. Of course, our girl struggling with her PTSD, can't say I blame her, but I mean, the criticisms of, you know, you're a B-rank healer and you're doing nothing makes sense, but I mean, with what she's been through, it's understandable that she has a bit of stage fright. The fact that, like, I don't know how long they were there for, but the fact that they were getting no damage in. And it's so interesting because what I really like what they did here with the end of the episode is that for us, the viewer, we understand where he stands at a power level very well in relation to the world, but for him, he has no idea, because obviously there's a lot of things quickly changing with him, so he doesn't really comprehend just how built different he is, because what we just ended up doing was showing that they couldn't break through that defense. Had he not done that little broken dagger sword throw, they probably would have had multiple casualties and honestly civilians and everything like that. But from his point of view, he's like, wow, that's kind of surprising that my broken sword broke through the defenses. They must have just clearly did fine, like they probably did 99% of the shield's health, and that's mostly on them, and then he dips. It's not really like an egotistical thing, like I don't need the reward. He generally thought he didn't do anything that impressive and that they had it fine, because with what he just dealt with, it was way stronger, right? So from his point of view, is someone as weak as him was able to defeat something so strong, then what he's looking at as a weaker boss, this whole army's gonna do just fine. Yeah, he supports them because he's not gonna be a dick about it, but he just couldn't comprehend the difference of what he's currently doing and what they needed help with. And that's so good because it puts into perspective for the viewer where he's actually standing at a power level in relation to his world, but how disconnected he is from the entire situation. And that's brilliant because it's going to allow for some really interesting characterization and disconnect from the general people of his world. We see quite a bit with the kind of video game menu system in this episode. He has a full ass shop, though he couldn't use it, at least at the start of the episode, maybe by now, especially because he's like 17 or level 18, something like that. We see how his levels are going to work, so it's not that he's going to be a full glass cannon, meaning that everything gets put into strength, and if you touch him one time, he's going to die. His other levels are leveling up, but because he boosted his strength so much, his strength is like double any of his other levels. And if you look at the very end of the episode, you see how like muscly his arm is anymore. So I think he's going to be absolutely ripped beyond belief. And honestly, it'll be interesting to see characters who know of him, because in this episode we get that flashback. He's the weakest like adventurer in the whole world. Like, he got trashed, he got dragged through the mud, and obviously that's going to do a lot for someone's self-esteem. So the characters who probably did talk shit, or just even if they didn't talk shit, know how weak he was, what they're gonna start saying when they realize certain things. We're already starting to tease that with the girl, but it's going to be interesting where they take it. The bread and butter, though, was that animation, because, man, that snake fight, this is now the second time in an anime season that I've seen a giant snake that was hand-drawn. There might have been some 3D in this episode. If there was when it came to that snake, I did not notice it because that shit was blended seamlessly. And I think my favorite part about the action so far is actually the impact. So it's not just when a snake hits him in the stomach and throws him into a wall. This man got bounced around. There's times he drops from the ceiling to the ground. You feel that. There's times where he gets bounced off a wall. It feels like his spine breaks and he falls forward. Like, the physics of how he gets tossed around feels so realistic. So it's very easy, despite it being a drawing. The fact that we are like, I feel that in my bones. I feel how insane he's being dealt damage. And it makes it feel so much more realistic. The music and the voice acting, though, are the thing that tied that whole fight together. Sometimes the music feels like Attack on Titan. You know those moments where like Titans would really start wrecking people's shit and the music would start building and you just felt like the world was ending? That's kind of how the music felt at multiple points in this episode. But the thing that really ties it together is this main character's VA. Last week, amazing. This week, equally so. Like, his rage, his determination, and his pissed off nature towards himself. The man be coughing up blood both in the recording booth and in this goddamn show, and you feel the passion and what they're going through to give such a amazing performance. Like, if you don't like Solo Leveling, you don't like it. That's fine. Not everyone's gonna like everything, but there definitely is a vocal group who just simply trash on the show because it's popular. It happens with a lot of popular shows. It's not an exclusive thing for Solo Leveling that they can wear like a badge of honor. No, but you can tell there's a difference between how people talk about things they simply don't like and how they talk about it upset that people enjoy it. And those types of people, we just should ignore because they're just trying to ruin people's fun. But I think for many of us, there's a reason why we be hyping this up. This is a power fantasy. No one's arguing that. It is a power fantasy through and through, but it is a power fantasy that is doing it so well. I love the main character. I love his determination. Makes sense why he's so down on himself, but it doesn't let him stop. I would have teleported out of there if I was him. He stuck through it, and it makes him a very enjoyable power fantasy main character because you want to see him succeed. And I mean, the mechanics with the shop, the menu system, him like his almost disconnect of what is reality for most people and now what is the reality for him. He's going to be a god among men at some point, and I'm very interested to learn more about this world. The portals, the gates, the dungeons, all that stuff adds to this. It doesn't feel shallow. It doesn't feel surface level. It doesn't hide the fact that it's a power fantasy, but it does it so much better than most. Let me know your thoughts on this week's Solo Leveling episode down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we have that full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you'll also get a video shout out. So today we have Joshua Kingsley, Migs021, Marion James E. Posada, and Azov Montgomery. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.